Welcome to Grace Fellowship Baptist Church Wednesday evening Bible study for March 24th, 2021. This is Saturday evening, March 20th, 2021, and we're going to be in Acts chapter 25 tonight. There's some administrative things to take care of first. We're about a month away from finishing the book of Acts, and we need to start thinking about where we want to study next. I have some ideas. We like to normally do from the Old Testament and the New Testament. In the Old Testament, the last few times we've decided we wanted to study the Pentateuch, so we studied the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And then we changed the New Testament, and we wanted to study the Gospels, the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and it made sense to finish up with Acts when we got finished with Luke. So we've done that. Of course, we started this series of teaching years ago with John. So we've studied the 4 Gospels. I would like to go back to the Old Testament. There's several different things that we could do. One, we could pick up where we left off at the end of Deuteronomy and start with the books of history with Joshua and Judges, maybe Ruth. It's a quick study that's still part of the history. I don't really want to get into Samuel, the Samuels and Kings and Chronicles. That's a kind of a continuous piece all by itself before we go back to the New Testament. Or we could start some of the prophets, maybe the minor prophets, or look at them. But I would like to have studied Samuel and Kings and Chronicles before we get to some of the minor prophets to see where they fit in the history, so you understand the history. We could also do some other things. So if you have an idea and you want it, we'll discuss it Wednesday night, or if not this Wednesday night, another Wednesday night. We will soon need to make a decision, though, so that I can get my study done. I've studied everything that I've mentioned in enough detail. It'll be a refresher course, but I still do like to do several weeks worth of refreshing of the information before I start trying to go into and teach a book, because while there's not a lot changing in biblical studies, there is always the chance that something has that would be new and interesting and worth knowing, and I just always need to refresh. So let's start with Acts chapter 25, verse 1. 3 days after arriving in the province, Festus went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem, where the chief priests and Jewish leaders appeared before him and presented the charges against Paul. They urgently requested Festus, as a favor to them, to have Paul transferred to Jerusalem, for they were preparing an ambush to kill him along the way. Festus answered, Paul is being held at Caesarea, and I myself am going there soon. Let some of your leaders come with me and press charges against the man there if he's done anything wrong. After spending 8 or 10 days with them, he went down to Caesarea, and the next day he convened the court and ordered that Paul be brought before them. When Paul appeared, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him, bringing many serious charges against him, which they could not prove. Then Paul made his defense. I have done nothing wrong against the law of the Jews or against the temple or against Caesar. Festus, wishing to do the Jews a favor, said to Paul, Are you willing to go up to Jerusalem and stand trial before me there on these charges? Paul answered, I am now standing before Caesar's court, where I ought to be tried. I have not done any wrong to the Jews, as you yourself know very well. If, however, I am guilty of doing anything deserving death, I do not refuse to die. But if the charges brought against me by these Jews are not true, no one has the right to hand me over to them. I appeal to Caesar. After Festus had conferred with his council, he declared, You have appealed to Caesar you will go. Festus probably has not been fully versed in Paul's trial and the outcome of it and why he's there as a prisoner. Um, he hasn't yet, well, he's been appointed to it and he's basically been sworn in. He's still traveling around. He's touring his province and everything under his jurisdiction before he goes and arrives at his dwelling there in Caesarea, in Herod's palace, where he's going to be basically administering the province from. So he hasn't basically, while he's sworn in, he's not taken office yet. Um, he's he's touring and getting to know people and having people get to know him and seeing people and them seeing him, so everybody knows who's in charge. It's one of the things the Romans did is you toured your province before you set up shop, so that you knew something about what you were dealing with. They didn't have good cartography. They didn't have, you basically had to see it yourself. And so he basically needs to visit every major city and all the major political groups and political appointees and whatever in their place of work before he starts doing anything. And so going to Jerusalem and meeting the Jewish leaders is part of that. And of course, the Jewish leaders have in mind they want Paul dead. They've been conniving for 2 years, over 2 years, and they still haven't managed to do it. And so they're hoping the new guy doesn't know enough, but what he'll fall for their scheme and take Paul to Jerusalem, and somewhere along the way they'll waylay him, and they're going to achieve their goal. The Jewish leaders are flatly lying to Festus about what Paul's done. Festus may or may not have reviewed documents and know that what's going on. He probably doesn't know all the details of the case. And so, since it seems to be a big political deal, he, he does the Roman thing. Says, "No, we're not taking him to Jerusalem. He's in my court, so he's going to be tried in my court. That's the Roman way." And says, "You come up to my court, and we'll hold trial." And of course, they made all kinds of serious accusations there in Jerusalem. And when they came to Caesarea, they did the same. And Paul denies it, basically. And this isn't yet in court. This is just the pretrial motion, so to speak. And Festus is trying to wash his hands of this. He apparently is at this point consulted with enough people that he knows that, oh, this is a mess that can't be really handled correctly. And Felix left it for me because he didn't know how to handle it. And he punted the ball. And now I've got to deal with it. And it's become an issue again. And I can't just ignore it and leave Paul alone and let things ride. And that's what God has done is basically he needs to move Paul. And, so Festus is going, well, are you willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial there? And, Paul has no interest in going to Jerusalem. He doesn't know for certain probably that the Jewish leaders are going to try to ambush him or kill him, but he knows that even if he safely gets to Jerusalem, it's a kangaroo court. It's their ball court, and they're going to have stacked the court. They're going to have stacked the jury. There's no amount of evidence that will declare him innocent. It's, justice will not be done in Jerusalem. And his only option, if Festus isn't going to hear the trial and declare him innocent and release him, is he has to appeal to Rome. Now, he doesn't have any charges against his people. He doesn't have anything that he wants to charge them with. He's just wanting to appeal his case to the emperor, not so much because he wants to be tried by the emperor, but if Felix and Festus aren't going to handle the job, then he's got to go to a higher court, and that's going to be the emperor. That's where it goes. And he also knows that if he goes to Rome, well, he's been wanting to go to Rome. He can go to Rome that way. And all likelihood, the Jewish leaders are not going to successfully, well, they're not going to be able to pack the Roman court. They're not going to sway it much. The emperor doesn't have much concern for the problems that are going on in Judea, Palestine, among the Jews. That's not his concern. I mean, he's gotten from an empire that literally stretches into Britain, into all of France, all of Spain, Portugal, into Germany. It goes all through Greece, Turkey, Italy, of course, Italy. What we now know as Switzerland. Most of what we know is Eastern Europe. The border was through the middle of what we know as Eastern Europe. He's doing military campaigns in Germany and in Britain. He has ongoing border wars there, so to speak. Turkey is his. He's wanting to conquer all the way around the Black Sea. The Slavic people are still defending their turf, and they're learning war from the Romans, and they'll eventually get strong enough that they become a force. He is already conquered all of the eastern side of the Jordan River into the desert as far as troops could penetrate, basically. The Bedouins have decided, it's better to be allies with Rome and declare that we're under their rule and then to let them fight all the way across the desert. Sure, we have an advantage, but they made it further than the Bedouins were comfortable with, and they didn't want the Romans knowing the desert that well. They basically wanted to say, yeah, okay, we surrender, but we're desert nomads, and we're just going to continue to run around here in the desert, and we'll pay you some taxes and declare that all our territory is your territory. And if we need help fighting the enemies on the other side, then we'll call you up and help you find the best route through instead of the one that you'd have to fight your way through. And so, what is technically now what is Saudi Arabia and Yemen and Kuwait and were part of the Roman Empire. Kind of sketchily so. The Romans actually didn't have anybody there, but they were going. They were looking at attacking Persia, which was the next power over, and going through what's now Iraq and Iran. They were also doing long-term planning to, once they had Persia conquered, to go into what we now know as India. So he has very little interest in dealing with local issues among the Jews. He knows the Jews are a constantly squabbling group. He knows there's a lot of political tension there. He has governors there that are good governors that are trying to keep the peace there, and without riling them up and it's a breadbasket. He needs the food that Palestine grows. Uh, it's a good revenue source, but all it's basically good for the empire is it's part of the land bridge. It's the cheap way to get to Egypt. Sailing across the water is the other, and that's risky and more expensive. And while he takes food from Egypt by ship, by cargo ships are actually decently safe, but they're boring and slow, and you know, as long as you keep the Mediterranean safe enough, there's no pirates, it's pretty safe. You don't want to transport a lot of people that way, though. And so you want the land bridge through Palestine to be able to get to Egypt. They have still concerns with what used to be Parthia, what's now in Libya. It's the edge of the empire there. Again, the desert is not worth conquering. The people that are there have nominally surrendered to them, but like the Bedouins in Saudi Arabia, the Arabs in Saudi Arabia, it's kind of in name only. There's no Romans there. When they come into a Roman settlement on the edge, they pay their taxes and pretend to swear allegiance to the empire, and they promise that if they have enemies on the other side that need conquering, they'll show the Romans the safe route through. You know, the empire is huge, particularly considering that the fastest land transport is a horse and a rider on a horse, and the fastest sea transport is a sailing ship. You know, it's 3 to 6 weeks from Egypt to Rome by sail. It's 6 to 8 weeks from Palestine to Rome by um, normal land transport. If you're going to transport any goods, uh, a Roman courier that needed to travel fast could get from Palestine to Rome in a little under 2 weeks. Some records were set occasionally. I think 6 days was the fastest transit. Unusual circumstances. You know, the emperor has very little concern with this trial. The only reason it even becomes a trial is he ends up with two different leaders of the Christian church in Rome, both accused from different sources. And he realizes that Christianity needs to be looked at from the Roman perspective and see, is this a legal religion, an illegal religion? Is this just a disruptive religion and upsetting everybody, but perfectly fine? He needs to know, and it needs to be a legal decision, not just. And the lower governors have not been able to make a decision. Um, there's, there's going to be trial transcripts and stuff gathered. We do not have whatever evidence that Peter presented independently. It was not recorded by Luke, so we don't have it. There apparently was some. Both Peter and Paul, at the end of this trial, are released. We'll talk more about that toward the end of Acts, but Festus is just, he doesn't quite know what to do with this. He's too new on the job. He doesn't have the political capital to make the decisive decision he needs to make. And people that he knows are important people are pressing him to make a decision fast. So he's a little concerned about how to do this. He's very definitely a Roman. He has no concern with Jewish ways yet. He's still learning that on the job. He has no association with the Jews before this job. That's part of why the Romans put him on it, to make sure that Jewish influences hadn't corrupted the Roman court. And he's supposed to be very Roman and do things a very Roman way. And he's been trained in Roman law, and so he's going to make sure that he's following the Roman law well, and that's what his emphasis is at this point. And he's kind of feeling his way through this, and Paul appeals to Caesar instead of being allowed to be sent to Jerusalem. And this is probably Paul's way of going, hey, I got to get out of this situation where I'm just sitting here, and who knows when Festus is going to leave and the next guy may be weaker and just give me up. And he wanted to go to Rome anyway. So he saw a chance to go to Rome. So he appeals to Rome. Verse 12, when Festus appealed to his, conferred with his council, he realized, hey, I could have just released him. If I'd known that, I would have just declared him innocent, acquitted him, and turned him loose, and he could go his way, wherever he wanted to go. Maybe give him some protective custody as he goes out of town, but make sure the Jews don't get him. But, I could have just released him, but okay, he appealed to Caesar, so to Caesar he has to go. And at least gets it out of his hands. It's like, okay, it's time to send it up the court system. So now he has a problem. He's got this prisoner that doesn't have any charges against him that's made an appeal to Caesar. That's like, you have to send the guy with charges. He doesn't have any charges against him. Verse 13. A few days later, King Agrippa and Bernice arrived in Caesarea to pay their respects to Festus. Since they were spending many days there, Festus discussed Paul's case with the king. He said, "There's a man here whom Felix left as a prisoner. When I went to Jerusalem, chief priests and elders of the Jews brought charges against him and asked that he be condemned. I told them it's not the Roman way, a Roman custom, to hand over any man before he's faced his accusers and had an opportunity to defend himself against their charges. When they came here with me, I did not delay the case, but convened the court the next day and ordered the man to be brought in. When his accusers got up to speak, they did not charge him with any of the crimes I had expected. Instead, they had some points of dispute with him about their own religion and about a dead man named Jesus, whom Paul claimed was alive. I was at a loss at how to investigate such matters, so I asked if he would be willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial there on these charges. When Paul made his appeal to be held over for the emperor's decision, ordered him to be held until I could send him to Caesar." Then Agrippa said to Festus, "I would like to hear this man myself." He replied, "Tomorrow you will hear him." Like several other times, Paul is kind of stymieing the Roman system. They kind of know he's innocent. There's nothing they really need to hold him for, but they've got a political problem, and so they need to hold a trial, and it just keeps getting worse for them. And so now he's appealed to Caesar, so he needs to go to Caesar. But Festus is basically, he's dealing with one of his, actually, King Agrippa is technically a superior, but doesn't have any of his land under his jurisdiction. He's a rank higher in the system than Felix is, but and so he's basically asking for some help from a political ally, and saying, "I got this problem. I don't know how to deal with it. I'm new at the job. I need some wisdom and your insight." And King Agrippa is like, "Yeah, I'll help you. This is a small favor, and I'll scratch your back today, and you'll scratch my back tomorrow, kind of thing. And also, King Agrippa has heard of Paul. He's heard of Christianity. Festus apparently has not, and doesn't know what to make of this. This idea of Jesus being raised from the dead is just astounding to him, and he's never heard anything like this. Now, if Paul had said that this was, God on human flesh on the earth, and that, they killed him, but he came back, he might have put it in the case of, well, gods do whatever they want to, and okay, he got rid of one body and got another one, kind of thing. But he's hearing the man died and came back, and he's alive, and the Jews claim, no, he was never anything, and he died, and that's the end of it, and he doesn't really know how to investigate that. The points that they're making have nothing to do with Roman law, and he can see plainly that this isn't anything a Roman court really needs to handle. And he kind of understands why Paul doesn't want to go to Jerusalem, because he's kind of understanding that he's in the small group, and he doesn't really live in Jerusalem, and he's a Roman citizen, so he doesn't need to be under a Jewish court. He's in a Roman court now, so he doesn't need to be demoted to a lower court. That's why he appealed, but he doesn't really have any charges to bring against his own people. So, Festus is he's got to figure out something to say, and as he appeals to Agrippa, he, like the commander, is telling the tale from his perspective, making himself sound good. Hey, I'm doing this good thing for this Roman citizen, but, I got a problem. I don't have a legal charge. And it's all to do with religion, and, unless it's the religion is directly opposing the emperor or something, the Roman custom is we don't touch it, and I don't want to touch this. Now, Agrippa has heard of Christianity. He's heard of Paul. I'm sure he's heard the controversies, and he wants to get the mettle of Paul himself and hear what he has to say. And the thing is, Agrippa, his wife is a Jewish princess, literally. She has descended from the lines of the Maccabees, who were the last Jewish rulers before that their civil war with themselves over succession invited the Romans in, and became a Roman colony now. And both of the people claiming the Jewish throne were corrupt, and the Romans could tell that, and neither one of them were fit to rule. And so the Romans deposed both of them, but they left the Maccabees alone. They said, oh, it's just these two men, neither one are fit to rule. And so we're going to solve the problem, but we're going to be in charge and rule, and you Maccabees can go do the religious duties that the priests should do, because they recognized the Maccabees were priestly kings, and that they should be doing priestly duties and not ruling as earthly leaders, well, as political leaders. They should rule as earthly religious leaders. And Bernice is one of the, I guess it's great-granddaughters of one of the men that didn't want to be a Jewish king out of the Maccabees. She may be a great-great-granddaughter, something like that. It's been a while. But anyway, she's in that lineage. And they were still an important family, and politically connected and religiously connected. They were no longer in the high priestly line, actually. Jewish politics, different bunch was now in charge. but they were still a wealthy family, an influential family. And so, they'd married one of their daughters into one of the Roman lands so that they could get some influence with the Romans. And that is King Agrippa. And she helped King Agrippa actually go up the ladder, and he's gone up several steps, and he's now actually a king, which is a very high honor under the Romans. Kings ruled under the Roman Empire, but independent of the emperor. So he could make political decisions that had the authority under his jurisdiction of being a decision from the emperor. He didn't have to report to Rome. Now, I said that. He still had to be loyal to Rome. But in one sense, his country was an independent country under Rome, within the Roman Empire. As long as he was loyal to Rome and to the Senate, he didn't have to necessarily be loyal to the emperor. So he's got a very nice position. Now, most of the kings that ended up ruling in the Roman Empire like that, they were very loyal to the emperor. They knew that if they tried to be disloyal to the emperor, they basically needed to win the civil war they were going to start and become emperor. And so the emperor did play politics with the kings and try to keep them all on his side, because it's nice to have a council of kings to help defend you if one of them decides to get up to you and decide to, try to have a war of succession, have a bunch of other kings on your side. But it also lightened the administrative load in that for that area, they didn't have to consult all the way with Rome. And they could let the king keep a standing army as long as, if they needed troops, the Roman generals could call on them. And so, King Agrippa has a very nice position. He can get wealthy from taxation, and he has a certain nominal amount for his territory that he has to send to Rome, but he can support his own troops, and he's supposed to support his own troops and defend his own land, and the Romans aren't supposed to be needed. Now, the Romans knew there was enough problems in Palestine. They weren't going to let any king have Palestine, because that could actually split the empire, and they knew it. And but Agrippa's territory included Turkey. It included the areas around the Black Sea, and Transjordan. He has a lot of territory. He's a wealthy king. He controls the land route into Palestine. He makes sure Romans have safe passage, and of course they can transit his lands for free. And if he needed to go to Rome or send somebody to Rome, they could go through Roman lands for free. So he's a very nice position. Now, if he sent somebody through one of the other Roman kings' land, he would have to pay, proper tariffs there. But most kings, if they did, they made a treaty with any neighboring king and made sure that everybody was on the up and up with Rome. It was all in their interest to make sure that happened. So Agrippa has an interest in Christianity too, and he has never apparently had it come to his court. But hey, he gets an opportunity to hear one of the Christian leaders in a court and get to rule on it. That's going to be useful for him, because if he rules here, he can take it back home and make it law over his whole kingdom. And he can do it on somebody else's territory. So if he decides, oh, I made a mistake, he can rule differently on his own territory, and, he gets a chance to practice, so to speak. And he's also curious about Paul. This is he's wanting to hear Paul. And, you know, he also knows Festus' problem. Um, and he probably understands Festus' problem better than Festus does, because he, you know, he's been around Christianity, he's been around the Jews. He understands the animosity that's there and the animosity within Judaism between the Jews. And since they're a minority in his territory, it's not much of a problem there because the majority cultures are dominating the political scene. And he can, you know, basically tell them don't cause any trouble, you know, and they'll get along with each other because if they cause trouble, it's bad for everybody. Um, and he's probably had a few trials, or at least the records brought to him, like Ephesus. And so he has records of the trials, or at least has heard about the trials that Paul's had and the troubles he's had, because it's been in Agrippa's territory. And, you know, Paul has actually done most of his ministry under Agrippa's rule. And so, you know, he's curious. He wants to hear. And Festus, of course, is quite willing to convene a court and have him hear it. It's part of how they're going to bond. They need to work closely together and cooperate. This for Festus, this is the nearest military force that isn't the Roman guard that's already in Palestine. So he needs to be friendly with it. And if the Roman guard needs help, this is who he's going to appeal to. He's going to appeal to Aquila and say, "Hey, come help us." And you know, so they're fence mending, getting to know each other, and they might as well bond over the problems of state and deal with it. Well, each of them has an interest in hearing this, and so Festus says, "You know, tomorrow he's here. He's here in the palace with me. We can just, you know, just call him up, tell the centurion to bring him in. He's here. You know, we can do it tomorrow." And that's where we're going to leave things, because really, when the chapters were divided, between verse 22 and 23 is where the chapter should have been divided, not down between verse 27 and verse 1 of chapter 26. But that's, you know, that's a topic we've dealt with before. So we're going to stop here at verse 23. Next week we'll pick up at chapter 25, verse 23, and we'll probably go all the way through the end of chapter 26, because that's Paul's trial before Agrippa. Now, notice something. Paul has now had 2 Roman trials. He's fixing to have a third one. Festus heard him, and it was basically a very quick trial, because Paul appealed to Caesar, and Festus knew that there was nothing that needed to be heard in a Roman court. He was kind of trying to transfer this to a religious court. It's a religious matter, but he's a Roman citizen, so he has the right to appeal to Rome. But now he put Festus in a bind. How do I deal with this? And Aquila understands that and is willing to help him out. I mean, he also would look bad if Festus just boogered the job up, you know, in the first few weeks on the job. So, you know, and he has natural curiosity. He wants to know. So then he had a trial before Felix. He's had a trial before Festus. He's fixing to have a trial before Agrippa. Now, the trial before Agrippa is not with the Jewish leaders accusing him. The 2 Romans want to know what he thinks and says. so they can know what to write to the emperor, because they want the emperor to be good with them. And they're fixing to send him a prisoner, and they want to make sure they're legally covered, because Paul has a right to appeal to the emperor as a Roman citizen. And but there's no charge. What do we do with this? How do we say this? They've got a political problem. They know it, and they're trying to figure out how to nuance it. And they don't want to just go, yeah, the Jews are being troublemakers, and this guy's a scapegoat, and we sent him to you to get him further away from the trouble. They're going to say that essentially, politically, but they're going to say it in the nice legal language so they look good, and the emperor looks good, and the Jews look bad. That's basically where they're trying to go to. And it probably would have, if that's what they had done, he probably would have gotten to Rome, the Roman lower courts that handle all the legal paperwork before it gets to the emperor would have gone, yeah, there's no reason to hold you, you're released. That's what they're kind of expect to have happen if they say things right. And so it's just the Romans and Paul. There's no Jewish accusers before Agrippa. So it's a much different trial. And Luke is going to record it in detail because it's also going to be important for the emperor when he hears this to know what was said there. Now, apparently Luke is there hearing this trial and is a witness to it and recording it. He apparently was not witness to the trial before Festus because it's just really sketchy, as you heard tonight. But he's writing it down apparently after the fact and after they're in Rome, because he's going to record things that the Roman court would need to know. And Luke is also trying to make Festus and Agrippa look good to the Roman court. He's wanting to work his politics there because if they're favorable to Christianity and the emperor is favorable to Christianity, then they can be free to witness about Jesus Christ almost anywhere in the empire. They see the opportunity to get declared a legal religion, or at least declared as a legal variant of Judaism, which is a legal religion, and therefore, be free to be a bold witness. And that's where I'm going to kind of leave it. Gracious Lord, we do thank you that you were protecting Paul, that you had the Romans that didn't know what was going on see through the plots of the Jews, and that Paul understood you wanted to go to Rome, and he saw an opportunity to get there, and he took it. Lord, we thank you for the thoroughness of the Romans in their court system, that we can know it, and thoroughness of Luke as he recorded it. Help us to be thorough people like that, who study your word and learn it and live it. Lord, we need to be people who live your life, live the life you want us to, that we'd study your word and know it better. Lord, have us to be diligent students, bold witnesses. Lord, in that, as your witnesses, we can have that ability to ask anything in your name for the work of your kingdom, and you grant it. As part of that, we ask for our health. We ask that you give us open opportunities, God moments where we can declare you. Lord, There's some things that I can't discuss in public, but you know, there are opportunities for me. I ask that you give me wisdom in those, uh, help it bear fruit for the kingdom. Lord, I'm sure that everybody is like that. Also, Lord, people within our congregation are ill and need your healing touch, particularly Dale and Annette, and that you would strengthen them and keep them strong. They've served you so long and so well for decades, and we love them. We care about them. We know you do too. We just ask that you be the healer for them. We ask that you be with Bill and Alice and Oscar as they lead us in worship tomorrow, as they lead us as we go into Easter, Palm Sunday next week, and Easter the week after that. And then as we head into after Easter in the warmer months, Lord, we ask that you bless them, give them wisdom, skill, give them vision, give them your word that they would claim it well. Lord, we ask that you give Becky wisdom, and as she grapples with what to do for VBS, there's so much that is so uncertain. Whether we need to meet in person, and that's kind of where my heart lies. But Lord, if this disease surges back, that would be foolish and a silly thing to do. But whatever, give her wisdom, even wisdom beyond what she can know, that she would make the sound decision that needs to be made, and have a good idea of how to do it. Have us follow her and help her and do what she asks us to do, that we do it well. Lord, I ask that you give us the resources it takes, the people, the money, the financing, the electronic resources if we need them, or whatever, physical resources, that we would be your witnesses, teaching children, teaching even adults more about your kingdom, leading people to Christ, that they would trust you, they would obey you, repent, and believe, and that they would become committed to you. Have us to be an outreach to the community. In your holy name, amen. And I hope to see you Wednesday, and if not, I'll see you next week here.